Hi everyone, thank you for joining us for this presentation of Basics Advocacy. The Advocacy Chair position is very important in the makeup of PTA. As Advocacy Chair, you will help guide and strengthen the focus of the mission of PTA through advocacy, awareness, and action. Learning objectives. These are the items that we hope that you take away from this course. Be able to understand and talk briefly about the Texas PTA legislative priorities, both during and outside of the legislative session. They are posted on our website. You should be aware of the decisions that are made at the local district level, state level, and national level. Understand how many decisions are made locally that you can impact without leaving your district. Know the importance of a position, resolution, and priority. Know when and where Rally Day takes place. PTA has remained focused on our vision and mission for over 100 years. This is our dream for every child, that every child's potential is a reality. The mission explains how we will accomplish our collective vision. That mission is to make every child's potential a reality by engaging and empowering families and communities to advocate for all children. These are words every student, parent, teacher, and community member should be able to support. The common bond among all PTAs can be found in our purposes. These PTA purposes help guide us in our work at all levels of the association. Your programs and activities should always be aligned with these purposes. As a national and statewide organization, PTA values collaboration, commitment, diversity, respect, accountability. PTA observes the national standards for family-school partnerships. All PTAs should be welcoming all families into the school community, communicating effectively, supporting student success, speaking up for every child, sharing power, collaborating with community. Implementing these 6 standards will foster positive family engagement at your campus. Executive Board Member Responsibility. The duties of a local PTA Executive Board are listed in your local PTA bylaws. Foundation. Essentials and Basics are the only training that Texas PTA requires every Executive Board member to take. Foundation Essentials is an introductory course for new PTA leaders that all officers and committee chairs must take at least one time in their PTA career. The course is offered online for a fee that is reimbursable by your PTA. The basic series is position-specific training and is required to be taken every time you are elected or appointed to a new role. Completion of this orientation ensures that all PTA leaders have the same base knowledge of PTA background, policies, and procedures. While the bylaw states new board members must complete foundation requirements no later than October the 15th, it is important that all PTA leaders complete the training during their first year of service, regardless of the date. Each officer and chair completes a written plan of work. These plan of works are presented to and approved by the Executive Board prior to the first association meeting in the fall and are used for budgetary planning and overall goal setting. A plan of work lets Executive Board members know what each Executive Board member plans for the year so conflict can be avoided and connections can be made to work together on common purposes. Bylaws provide the essential information for running your PTA. Read them thoroughly and become familiar with them. You must follow the bylaws at all times. Your PTA may also have standing rules. which include the more procedural aspect of your PTA. Standing rules cannot conflict with or duplicate your bylaws. All members of the Executive Board are expected to attend all meetings of both the Executive Board and the Association. Even if an Executive Board member does not have a report to give at a meeting, they still have a responsibility as a member of the Executive Board to participate in the accountability and decision-making process. The confidentiality, ethics, and conflict of interest agreement is signed and adopted by the Executive Board each new term. All Executive Board members must sign this policy per the bylaws. This policy clearly defines the duties and responsibilities of all Executive Board members to conduct the business of the PTA in a reasonable manner without conflict of interest. Each Executive Board member has a responsibility to be aware of the current activities of the PTA and to ensure all records are accurate. The Secretary and Treasurer depends on fellow Executive Board members to assist them in their role by reading and correcting the reports. It is every Executive Board member's responsibility to recruit members. Your PTA serves as the front door to our association. You should seek out families in your school and community to encourage them to join and make a difference in a child's life. Your first duty in your PTA position is to recruit your replacement. The sustainability of your PTA is dependent on the strength of its leadership. PTA is a membership association that advocates. Our membership number directly relates to the level of influence we have at a local, district, state, and national level. The word advocate can be intimidating, but I bet that you've been an advocate many times, even if that's not what you called it. Anyone who speaks for another is an advocate. PTA is an advocate for children and their families on a wide variety of child-related issues in the areas of education, health, well-being, and parent involvement. The purpose of advocacy is to communicate to decision makers and to inform, educate, persuade, or increase the level of awareness about an issue. Decision makers include elected and appointed officials, legislative bodies, school boards, and local school campuses. Your role is to bring awareness to the issues. Informing your members and providing accurate, relevant information is the most important aspect of this position. You are continuing a long-held tradition of grassroots advocacy by providing all the facts, motivating and mobilizing those concerns to speak for or against an issue or cause, encouraging voting at the polls. Texas PTA has over 520,000 members and is the second largest child advocacy association in the nation. As members, we are all advocates for our children. The person in this position is a key communicator to elected and appointed officials who have the authority to affect change, as well as to parents and families who are PTA members that are expecting the change. You are the middleman in the communication chain. So how can a PTA advocate? Every PTA member can be an effective advocate. Members should keep informed about the issues. You should choose issues important to your membership and build the support of your membership for your cause. Most importantly, you and members must learn to work together. Why advocacy? To educate and inform your membership of the legislation and issues that affect children, families at all levels is the role of the advocacy chair. It is important to have an understanding of what issues are decided at what level. National issues include federal funding, accountability standards. State issues include build relationships with legislators, school financing, accountability, standardized testing, PTA legislative priorities. Local campus issues such as testing coordination, homework grading policies, and healthy lifestyles are decided by a principal or a site-based committee at the campus level. Other policies or decisions such as testing days, budget cuts, bonds, GPA policies are made at the district level with the approval of the school board. It is important to know how many decisions and the importance of those decisions that are made at the district or local level. Many times our assumption is that the TEA or the state mandates something and it isn't necessarily true. Educate yourself on the autonomy that is given to districts and local campuses. You would be surprised on how much you can influence at a local campus. At a glance, these are your primary responsibilities of an advocacy chair. We'll cover them throughout this presentation, but I wanted to highlight a few here. One of the first things you should do after being appointed as advocacy chair is to find a few people to help you. Nobody should volunteer alone. It's selfish. Developing and working with a committee is critical to the advocacy chair's success and sanity. It helps accomplish goals and builds leaders. Two of the most important aspects of this position are participation and communication. You do not need to be an expert on how a bill becomes law or the inner works of the House and Senate chambers. If you are a good communicator and can build consensus around an issue and get people excited about it, you will be great. Every board member completes a plan of work as stated in the bylaws, which is approved by the board before any action is taken. This plan provides direction throughout the year and keeps you focused and on track. Additional items to be aware of while formulating your plan. State your goals and then break those down into action steps. These action steps can follow a timeline or can be stated broadly. Include action steps for the chair and the entire committee. Establish deadlines according to any external timelines. Include a budget. And remember to put expenses in your budget for rally day, travel, etc. Participation is a critical part of your role as advocacy chair. Be aware of and support the legislative priorities, positions, and resolutions that Texas PTA approves for each session. Subscribe to our advocacy e-newsletter under the dome on our Texas PTA website. All council and local PTAs should identify an advocacy chair. Attend rally day and organize a mobilization effort for all locals to attend from your area. Participate and encourage all members to participate in rallies and legislative calls for action as promoted by Texas PTA. Host educational forums for candidates for elected office. Encourage voter registration and turnout. Determine what issues are important to your PTA and its members and help them find ways to address these issues locally or with the help of Texas PTA. Apply for awards and recognition. National PTA and Texas PTA have awards for effective local advocacy efforts. The Advocacy Chair keeps the local PTA board and the membership aware of the pending national, state, and local legislative issues, including happenings in the community such as school board elections, bond elections, and general elections, federal legislation and policy updates, state legislation and policy updates, and candidate forums. You can always partner with other organizations such as League of Women Voters or other nonprofit groups who have this as their main purpose to help you moderate and assist you in your candidate forums. Your strongest tool as the advocacy chair is to communicate. 90% of your workload will be through some sort of communication. More people will be able to make informed decisions of the important issues affecting their children based on the effective forms of communication you use. You will want to determine appropriate communication channels for parents, teachers, and community members. You may consider a newsletter, flyer, webpage, text, and your social media outlets. Add important advocacy and legislative dates to your PTA calendar and make sure you announce them at all PTA meetings. Encourage members to subscribe to Under the Dome, our Texas PTA Advocacy e-newsletter. A resolution is an original main motion which, because of its importance, length, or complexity, is submitted in writing. Resolutions call for action by Texas PTA or its constituent bodies, councils, or local PTAs. Resolutions seek to address problems, situations, or concerns which affect children and youth and which require action for solution. Resolutions consist of two parts. First, the whereas clause, which are introductory statements that contain the background information and reasons for the resolution. Each statement of information or rationale is listed separately and begins with the word whereas. Second, the resolved clause, which are the request for action. Each action has its own resolved clause. Any level of PTA may adopt a position or resolution on an issue, so long as it does not duplicate or conflict with an existing adopted position at any higher level. A legislative position is a statement outlining the opinion, will, or intent of the association to address statewide problems, situations, or concerns that affect children and youth. A position statement usually requires initial action to seek resolution on the issue, but the position is sometimes maintained even when action has been taken to substantiate the continuing will of the association. The position must be approved by the membership or delegates. All constituent associations are then bound by the position or resolution. For example, Texas PTA, as well as all PTAs it serves, are bound by National PTA's position and resolution. A local PTA is bound by any position or resolution adopted by its council PTA, Texas PTA, or National PTA. The Advocacy Resource Guide and Texas PTA website can guide you step by step on how to write and adopt positions and resolutions. A legislative position is a statement outlining the opinion, will, or intent of the association to address statewide problems, situations, or concerns that affect children and youth. A position statement usually requires initial action to seek resolution on the issue, but the position is sometimes maintained even when action has been taken to substantiate the continuing will of the association. The position must be approved by the membership or delegates. All constituent associations are then bound by the position or resolution. For example, Texas PTA, as well as all PTAs it serves, are bound by national PTA's positions and resolutions. A local PTA is bound by any position or resolution adopted by its council PTA, Texas PTA, or national PTA. The Advocacy Resource Guide and Texas PTA website can guide you step by step on how to write and adopt positions and resolutions. Some positions, do's, and don'ts are: do, obtain the approval of the local or council PTA's membership. Do, adopt positions that are not divisive for the PTA. Taking a position on a boundary change or in support of one school over another being closed would not be appropriate. Do not adopt a position that duplicates or conflicts with an adopted position of Texas or national PTA. Texas PTA Advocacy Committee identifies legislative priority issues and presents them to the Texas PTA Board of Directors. Once these issues are adopted by the Texas PTA Board of Directors, all PTAs are asked to support these efforts. The Advocacy Committee is constantly monitoring and working on issues of statewide interest for the children and youth of Texas. They may include hot issues that have the potential to have great positive or negative impact on children or families, issues that Texas PTA has decided to put their energy and effort behind during the legislative session, issues that emerge from and support an adopted Texas PTA or national PTA resolution or position. Some considerations made when determining Texas PTA legislative priorities are feedback from members through surveys, and Texas PTA also looks at what is realistically attainable within a certain time period. There may be some issues that are not chosen because they have the potential to divide or not unite PTA into one strong voice. This may mean that this issue is best addressed at a later time or when it's no longer has the potential to divide our members. What is an advocacy project? It's a project your PTA can work towards to promote the health and well-being of children and youth in collaboration with parents, school, and community at large. Some guidelines for your advocacy project are: identify the issue, develop the preliminary plan, confirm relevancy to the membership, obtain board and membership approval, support an adopted position resolution if issue-based, confirm it does not conflict with Texas or national PTA positions or resolutions, coordinate the focus with all other board members, school district personnel, and community resources. Coordinate effort with other local or council PTAs working on the same issue. Rally Day is also a great local advocacy project. Mobilize your local PTA leaders and members to travel to Austin to meet with legislators on our designated day in February every other year during the session. Speaking of Rally Day, Texas PTA Rally Day is a one-day event held in odd-numbered years when the legislature is in session. Local and council PTAs throughout the state gather in Austin in February to speak to the legislators in favor of the adopted priorities identified for that session. This event shows the collective voice of PTA in advocating and improving the health, safety, education, and welfare of all Texas children. The day's agenda include a variety of activities, events, training, and testimony. Preparation for the event is provided through conference calls, webinars, and printed information. Texas PTA's over 520,000 members can have a very strong impact on the direction of legislation for children. As the advocacy chair, you will coordinate your PTA's participation and will be a key player in the effort to mobilize members and interested parties to come together for grassroots advocacy. This is a day of learning, advocating, meeting with your elected representatives, and having a clear, united voice for a united purpose, our children. Your local and council bylaws provide guidance regarding actions centered around advocacy. All PTAs are non-commercial, meaning we will not make a profit over what we need to fund our programs and events. Non-sectarian, meaning we do not support any one religious group. Nonpartisan, meaning we are not biased towards any one group, particularly a political group. Section B and C describe in detail ways we can engage, empower, and promote the health, safety, and wellness for Texas students in addition to advocating for a quality education for all children. Pay special attention to Article 4. It is important for all PTA members to understand that while citizen participation in the campaign of elected officials is encouraged, it is imperative that you not misrepresent your position or PTA as support for any elected office or official. Doing so could have consequences for your local or council PTA, including losing your nonprofit status. For more information, or if there is a question about what you are allowed to do, contact the state PTA president or advocacy chair before you participate. New Texas PTA awards for local and council advocacy efforts will be announced soon. Make sure you keep track of your efforts so Texas PTA can recognize your PTA for those efforts to advocate and bring together awareness to issues that affect positive change in the lives of children and youth, and so others can benefit from your activities. National PTA has several advocacy awards. The Outstanding Local PTA Award is presented to a local, district, council, or regional PTA that, through their dedication, leadership, and efforts positively affected legislative and/or regulatory policies capability with PTA's mission and goals. The Shirley Igo Advocate of the Year Award is presented to an individual PTA member who, through their leadership and advocacy efforts, affected federal policy priorities within PTA's annual public policy agenda. The Youth Advocacy Award is presented to a young person who, through his or her creativity, leadership, and dedication, has positively affected policy or change in his or her school or community in the way that aligns with PTA's mission and goals. A student in El Paso won this award 3 years ago. Identify someone who will be able to take your position when your term is up. Personally ask them and explain the qualities they will bring to the position. When we advocate, we teach. As a PTA board member, our constant task is to train for the future and to prepare others to lead. As the advocacy chair, you will work to build strong relationships within your board, your school, and your community. Always look for and identify future leaders for your PTA and your position. Remember to thank the members of your committee. Committees consist of more than one person. Each chair should enlist additional people to help with the goals and the objectives of the committee. Texas PTA offers a wide range of resources to help you be successful. The Texas PTA website at www.txpta.org contains several useful resources that are available to PTA members. Here are just a few of those resources. Advocacy Resource Guide, Local Advocacy Toolkit, e-News Under the Dome, live and archived webinars. Additional training for these positions can be found at Texas PTA Launch, which is held in January in various cities across the state. Texas PTA Annual Meeting, typically held in July. National PTA's website is another valuable resource. Their website is www.pta.org with a full tab of advocacy resources, including their advocacy toolkit, e-newsletter, and much more. National PTA also has an annual convention that is held every June in various cities across the nation, and they have a legislative convention that is held in March in Arlington, Virginia. Finance for executive board members. Every single board member should be knowledgeable on the financial responsibilities of the PTA. Below is basic information on finances that every board member needs to be aware of. There is so much more involved in the everyday financial management of a PTA. These are just the basics. For more detailed information, see www.txpta.org/treasure. Fiduciary responsibility. The IRS requires reporting by nonprofits on a range of governance issues that reach far beyond financial reporting, including board member fiduciary duty. Executive board members have three fundamental fiduciary duties: a duty of care, a duty of loyalty, and a duty of obedience. The duty of care means that the board member actively participates, attends board meetings, is educated on the industry, provides strategic direction, and oversees the day-to-day operations of the PTA. The duty of loyalty requires the board member to operate in the interest of the local PTA and not to use the position to further personal agenda. The duty of obedience requires the board to know the state and federal laws and regulations that apply. This includes the regulations and guidance issued by the IRS. Obedience to governed documents require a deep understanding of the operating documents. Finally, obedience requires that the board not act outside the scope of the organization's legal documents. Fiduciary responsibility in a PTA means the executive board members act as trustees of the organization assets and must exercise due diligence to oversee that the organization is well managed and that its financial situation remains sound. Finance for executive board members. Budget basics. The budget creates the framework for program management and overall administrative decisions. An approved budget must be in place at all times in order for expenditures to be made and fundraisers to be conducted. The budget is presented and adopted by the membership at the last membership meeting of the year and is amended at the first membership meeting based on approved plans of work submitted by the new executive board members. The members always approve expenses and income via the budget, which can be amended as needed. Financial reports. To keep people informed, a current financial report is presented at every regular executive board and membership meeting. As the funds belong to the members, they have a right to access the financial reports presented at membership meetings. Financial transaction payments. Payments are never made in cash, and blank checks should never be issued. All payments must relate to an approved budget item line and have a reimbursement form with a receipt and/or bill attached. No other organization may pass its money through the PTA account in an effort to achieve tax exempt status, and money can never be turned over to the school and/or principal to spend at their discretion. Depositing funds. All monies collected are turned over to the treasurer as soon as possible. Money is counted by at least 2 people at the same time, and both counters and the treasurer each sign and keep a copy of the completed Texas PTA deposit form. The treasurer may be one of the 2 counters. Insurance. It is in the PTA's best interest to cover the treasurer and all other persons authorized to handle money with a fidelity bond and officer's liability, to cover losses through any fraudulent or dishonest act. Insurance premiums are budgeted as an expense line. For more details on financial procedures for your PTA, please see and visit www.txpta.org/treasurer. Texas PTA membership year begins on August 1st. Membership recruitment should be occurring year-round. You can find all our membership awards on our website. Local PTAs must meet the following requirements each year to obtain active status with Texas PTA. Number 1, remit to Texas PTA state national membership dues for at least 20 members. 2, submit to Texas PTA the name and contact information of at least one current executive board member, preferably the president. Local PTAs must comply with all the following standards to remain in good standing with Texas PTA. 1, maintain active status with Texas PTA. 2, report all members and remit all state and national dues to Texas PTA each year. Number 3, submit to Texas PTA the name and contact information for each executive board member within 15 days of election or appointment. Each executive board member should submit their own contact information through the Submit Board Info link on our website page. Number 4, review your bylaws and standing rules every 3 years and submit to Texas PTA for approval. Number 5, each year within 60 days of fiscal year ends, electronically file and have accepted by the IRS the Form 990 return of organization exempt from income tax. This is sooner than required by the IRS. The outgoing treasurer should file the 990 as soon after the fiscal year end as possible. Texas PTA staff and volunteer leaders are here to answer any of your questions regarding your position. Our toll-free number is 1-800-TALK-PTA or email us directly.